Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Please forgive the hiatus. 13th through the 17th was Startup Week. It was extremely busy. I did a lot of recording, as I stated, in that I wanted to take everyone to Startup Week with me. I didn't get everything recorded because I was also volunteering, and so I had some things that I had to do, and I simply couldn't get back to my camera in time to film a couple of things. So some of it is missing. However, before each video that I release on this from Startup Week, you'll have a full view of the speakers that spoke during those sessions. And I would encourage you to look them up. They're fantastic people. They have a lot of knowledge. So over Thanksgiving, I still needed some time to recoup, had some other life things happen, and it was an incredibly big task to edit that many presentations each day for the 5 days that Startup Week was. So I had no idea just how much editing I was going to have to do and how much I was going to have to try to cut down and manage the not arena, but the speaking hall that we were all in. The acoustics were not that great, and some speakers didn't hold the mic close enough at times, so trying to boost the sound to where things can be heard and understood was kind of a big pain in the ass for me. Complete amateur at some of this stuff, and there were a lot of things simply out of my control, but I wanted to show off Startup Week so people who have never attended, maybe just can't get themselves to go to something like this, to kind of have as close to an experience of what I experienced during Startup Week as possible. There was a ton of knowledge. It was free to register, and it was, to me, a really, really great event. So I'm going to break these down into 9 videos. Yes, 9 videos. Some of them will be 25 minutes or longer. Some of them, I don't know if they'll be shorter. I haven't looked at the total times, run times on them. So, but there'll be a Monday morning, and then the next day I will put out Monday afternoon, so on and so forth to Friday. Friday, there weren't as many sessions because it was the whole wrap-up day. But I spoke Friday. There'll be a condensed version of what I was speaking on just to kind of keep the videos in sync together with how I arranged them. But I am going to release my full talk from Startup Week after I get Startup Week out. So without further ado, this will be Monday morning, again, followed by the Monday afternoon video.
Which is a keynote by a friend of mine who is dear, who has kind of a similar mission of what I'm doing with STEM music. We both love science, technology, engineering, and math, and we love to display it in an art form, okay? So we're gonna have our keynote speaker, Sierra Marie Bond. She is a passionate advocate for supporting local businesses and driving economic growth by empowering our current and future workforce. As a cutting-edge digital content creator and influencer, Sierra has collaborated with renowned brands such as Microsoft, American Heart Association, Sephora, Lizzie the Label, and many more. Sierra graduated from Wichita State University with a Bachelor's of Engineering Technology, a focus in management, and a minor in anthropology. And now, she is working on her Master's in Innovation Design. She's doing a lot, y'all. We're bringing quality, top-notch speakers for you this morning, okay?
I'll give you the answer on this one. Failure. Failure happens all the time, in every arena. How many of you like failure? Not many of you. We got some too brave souls who say they like failure. Can I tell you a secret? I like failure. I didn't start liking failure. Everyone kind of hates it. It makes you feel bad, makes you feel gross, makes you feel awkward, makes you feel really big, hairy, scary, anxious. overwhelmed thoughts. I struggle with failure, but I've learned a lot about failure, and through failure, I've been able to learn a lot. So I went to school at Wichita State University, go Shucks, and I studied engineering. And there's lots of different types of engineering in the world, and there's lots of different things, and this talk isn't about engineering. So for those of you already yawning, don't worry, it's not about engineering. But to me, engineering is the study of failure. Understanding how things break, understanding where things get stressed, and learning how to make something better that comes out of the destruction or the failure or the problem, right? And you don't have to be an engineer to take that kind of problem solving and apply it to your own life. So I want to tell you a little bit of a story about how I got to be here, and Roy read my awesome bio about working with Microsoft, the American Heart Association, Sephora, those kinds of things. I didn't just wake up one day and get a call from Microsoft saying, yo, you're cool, can we pay you? Unfortunately, it didn't work like that for me. It might for somebody, but my story is a little bit longer than that, and it involves quite a bit of failure. So when I was in college, I was studying at the time biomedical engineering. Does anyone know what biomedical engineering is? We see no head shakes. Great. So biomedical engineering, how I used to describe it, is it's medicine plus engineering. And a lot of times that can be used to build like advanced prosthesis. And basically what I wanted to be when I grow up was Tony Stark. I wanted to build the next Iron Man suit. And I was studying in my classes. I was one semester away from graduation. And I had applied to my dream internship. It was one of those things, you know when you're planning out your life, you have like this dream, you're like, I know what this thing is, and if I get this thing, I know exactly where I'm gonna be in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, my whole life is mapped out, it's gonna be beautiful and perfect and amazing. If I just get this thing, I'll do it. And so I applied to this internship. It was perfect for me in every way. I got through the first round, aced it, advanced to the second round of interviews. Aced it, advanced to the next round of interviews. Aced it, got to the finalist round, heart pumping, so excited, and I got rejected. And I thought, because I was a dramatic college student, that my life was over. I thought I had failed. I no longer saw my vision for my future going down that one path because I didn't get that one thing. And as a result, if that potential is ruined, my whole life is ruined. Why should I even bother being an engineer? Why should I bother being in school? If I'm not good enough for this thing, maybe I'm not good enough for anything. And that really hurt. Those voices in my head saying that you're a failure and that you're not worth it were really eating away at me. So much so that I was actually crying to my mom in the back booth of Jason's Deli when it was on Rock Road, crying like a child, saying, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't see the point of going on much more. That's how bad I felt. The depression was hitting so hard. And fortunately, my mom looked at me and said, well, if all of these things are making you feel sad, if you feel like you failed in all of these areas, what brings you joy? What's something you've succeeded at? Let's focus on that and go from there.
Well, good morning. I'm Regina Miller, and I go by R. Miller because of my consulting company. I got a long history, so I will make this very short, I promise. But I've been in childcare for over 47 years, so there's a lot of adults walking around Wichita with kids of their own and bringing them back to our school. But I started in corporate America with childcare and then decided I wanted to own my own company. It was the best decision that my husband and I ever made. At the time, there was a beautiful young lady who was my daughter. She just passed away almost 2 years ago, this coming January, at 36. But she decided to downsize our school and make it more homey feeling and concentrate on literacy, so we opened a library there. Again, my vast is very broad because I do consult businesses for startup. I'm fortunate enough to have been a coach for Nicole here, so it's amazing to watch her flourish and grow. But nothing, and I do mean nothing, and I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, nothing happens without faith in God. God is the key. Okay.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. So I think, what's interesting in hearing all of your answers and responses is there's some curiosity there. There's some pain there, but as we heard from Sierra, how to channel that pain. And that's a very interesting thing, because I think everybody in life, especially nowadays, maybe going through something hard or challenging, but to take that energy, to take that frustration, that pain, and to launch it into an idea that can then become a business. And they're talking about shipping stuff around the world, doing so many things in the city of Wichita, educating the next generation of students that are walking around with their kids now who are students, right? So their impact and their reach is pretty large based on what they may have been going through at the time when they took that chance to start their business. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about what you might want to start. Okay, so I'll ask one more question, and feel free, anybody can take a stab at it, and then we'll open it up to, I'm coming to you in the back row, okay? I'm coming to you in the back row. So we talk about businesses. One of the things from the first keynote was talking about failure, and talking about how no one really likes it, but it is something that is vital in our journey as entrepreneurs. And so what has been your greatest challenge as an entrepreneur as it relates to your business and what you've done over the years? What has been that greatest challenge for you?
I'm not trying to be funny, but falling and breaking my hand on
Oh,
Saturday
Lord.
night. This is all. Falling on Saturday night, I went to speak at an engagement for grieving parents, and I knew the devil didn't want me there, but when I came out of the event and I fell in the parking lot, the first thing I said was, "Oh God, not now," because it seems like every time he's going to do something great, which I believe meeting all of you, and I mean this sincerely, I am so proud of each of you that's sitting in those chairs. And I knew that I had to be here today to share my story. Failure for me means trying over and over again. Failure is not final. You don't remember anything I say today, remember failure is not final. So just because you failed today doesn't mean you don't get up tomorrow and try and start all over again. For me, it was a lot of, we went from a large school to a small school and downsizing from 32 employees to 10. And having to say goodbye to some of those wonderful people just broke my heart, but they understood and we found placement for everyone. But again, for me, it's all about not giving up. So don't give up, no matter how hard it seems. Today is good, tomorrow may be awful. And you can't let that deter you and say, well, I may as well stop because I failed today. I want you to get up the next day and say, yesterday's gone, tomorrow's not promised, I'm going to work it out today.
I was just doing the math the other day. I've been an entrepreneur for 40 years now. So started at 19 when I was at Wichita State, and as a freshman and started my first business. So real quick, we're going to talk today about how to get in business, okay? And that takes a lot of self-realization. That takes a lot of analysis by you, okay, to figure out where can you be the most successful, right? So I got a little disclaimer down here. Okay, you can read it. There are many ways to be successful, or I could be full of crap. And what that means is what works for me may not work for you, and it may not work for the person next to you. Okay? So, my story, I started landscape construction business at 19 while I was a freshman at Wichita State. Okay? That's my piece of crap car in high school that I borrowed $1,600 against my freshman year from a bank at 22% interest. Anybody know what interest is right today, roughly? Anybody? A little low. Right now, the median average is about high sixes to all the way to 9 or 10%, depending on the risk level and the evaluation by the bank. So median average probably 7% to 8%. For a solid borrower. So that's 22%. At that time, interest rates were really high. And that's when I got into business. So, challenging times. So, I started at 19, started landscape construction business. I started to grow the business. I started to get a little cash flow. But I was very busy working in the business. Not necessarily on the business. Okay? And so I started to look at it and I said, you know what? The more that I want to make revenue-wise, the more people I have to work for me. And so that takes a lot of my time. And if I think about, at the time, I was probably putting in 60, 70 hours a week to grow the business. And so I started doing the math, and I thought, boy, there's got to be a better way for, I'm spending 60 or 70 hours a week, there's got to be a way that I can also have other types of revenue going. Okay, so what's your story? Okay, the first thing that you need to do is you need to ask, what's your story? And to thine own self be true. Where does that come from? Anyone? Big prize. What? Shakespeare. Okay? So you have to know yourself. Okay? One of the first things you do, you have to really understand, what are you passionate about? Okay? You want to be something you're excited that you want to get up every day and you want to come in and work on it. Right? The next thing is, what are you good at? There's a lot of evidence right now in what you're doing at what you're good at. How many people are really good at math? Raise your hand. Okay? How many people are good at science? Okay? How many people are good at English? Okay? How many people are good at social studies or geography or history? Okay? So right now, those are some of those things that you're passionate, you're good at. Maybe it's sports, athletics. Okay? So those areas where you're passionate and you're good at are natural upside opportunities for you to take that and take it into a business somewhere. Okay? The next one is, what do you have a skill set for? Okay? How many people have a job? Okay? When you're on that job, you're developing skill sets, right? You're getting good at something. So when I was in high school, I took a lot of drafting courses. So I was good at drawing and architectural. Okay? Then I turned around, and my sister's landscape architect, and she was at K-State, and she was working in an architectural firm. So during the summer, I worked in the landscape construction architectural firm. And then later on, I got a job at a condominium complex taking care of the grounds. So I was picking up skill sets while I was in high school. And guess what my first business was? It was a landscape construction business. So I took those skill sets, and I was able to parlay them into a business, right? The other thing great about that was there's high barrier entry companies and there's low barrier entry companies. So landscape would be when it's a low barrier, right? All you got to do is a little bit of labor, maybe a little bit of equipment, and you can get started, right? You go and do a medical device where it takes $10 million and 10 years to get it approved. That's a high barrier entry. So you really need to think about, is it a low barrier or high barrier entry? Usually your high barrier takes a lot of capital, takes a lot of time, and the risk level goes way up. So starting a service business or something that takes your skill set right now that you can turn into a business is very valuable because it gets you started so that you can then start to create some wealth and some cash flow. Then you can do something else with it, right? Okay?